Very good evening to all of you. I'm Dr. Kanupriya, Assistant Professor with the Department of English at Manav Rachna International Institute of Research and Studies. And I welcome you all at day 6 of the 7-day International Faculty Development Program on creating and stimulating research-based teaching in higher education, jointly organized by Department of English, Manav Rachna International Institute of Research and Studies, and Cape Comorin Trust. The speakers for today's session are Dr. Jayashree Singh and Dr. Bishwajit Roy Chaudhary. First of all, I would like to invite our first speaker for the day, Dr. Jayashree Singh. I welcome you, ma'am. Dr. Jayashree Singh is PhD in American Literature and postdoctoral fellow from Osmania University campus for International Programs, Hyderabad. She is currently working in Bhopal Noble University, Udaipur, as the head of the Department of English, Faculty of Science, Faculty of Social Sciences and Humanities. Dr. Jayashree Singh's other extension services are as adjunct faculty of Legal English Writing and Research in the Faculty of Law and the translator in Pratap Shodh Pratishthan. Since 2009, Dr. Singh has been supervising PhD research scholars. She has special interest in holding conference, workshops, webinars, seminars, and loves to work as concept writers, convener, coordinator, technical operator, organizer. Ma'am has 21 years of teaching experience. She has been a prolific writer as a researcher and critic, so credited with publications more than 50, including books and research papers. Her areas of research interest is in South Asian Indian literature, American literature, and British literature, besides cultural studies and film studies. She is currently holding students' welfare activities such as inter-college debates, literary cultural events, academic interest in curriculum development, content writer, canvas brochure, certificates, banner designer, etc. Ma'am today will be talking on the topic Ethnopoetics, Tradition and Perspectives, a critical study of folklores. We welcome you once again, ma'am. Over to you. Ma'am, you need to unmute.
Yeah. So good evening to all of you. I heartily welcome all the attendees, and with the permission of your chair and the organizers, I present my paper, or you may say my research that had long been done from 2014 to 2019. I think I took almost 4 or 5 years to sum up some kind of frame with regard to Rajasthan's folklores and folklorist style, pattern, narrative technique, and the language. And then in that only I also included or incorporated a kind of sense of that why were they sung, or what motivated or sparked them to go into so much of ecstasy, and they got so illuminated with kind of environment that they used to have around them of patriotism, martyrdom, and chivalry and gallantry, and all subjugation also, sovereignty at stake. So this all inspired here the Rajasthan folklorist, which we called in our native indigenous language as Charan Bhatts. Those Charan Bhatts folklorist poems, or you may say whatever the compositions I have added in my research, those compositions, of course, they are not in Hindi. Mostly they are in native indigenous language. And if we go into the researches of the historical times of medieval history of India, then those researches indicate to us that in these regions, in southwest or northwest region of Rajasthan, southwest means Udaipur, Dungarpur, Banswara, Khairwada. This is all southwest of Rajasthan. But if we talk of northwest of Rajasthan, then it complete district surrounded with its neighbors, Jodhpur, Jaipur, Churu, Sikar, Junjunu, and all these areas. They were very much into, involved into, engaged into the security of their borders and the protection of their borders, or guarding their intrusion, infiltration of the invaders. So their princely states of the medieval history of India, they had poets, bards. In English, charans are also known as bards. If we go into the Greek history, or some other history of European countries, they call them as bards, bards, bards. But we call them as charan bhats, okay, or charans. You will find a lot of now, they have their own website. They are popularizing their culture, because the youth, they orally very much accustomed, or ascribing their, pan charanism. And so they just want to, of course, it's a market also, publicity stunt also, through virtual platform. So these Charan Bhatts, they have their own website, and you will find the long history of these Bhatts. They have been engaging into encouragement of all these border area warriors, to guard their and protect their citizens, etc. So this kind of, work that I had undertaken from 2014 to 2019, in the Pratap Shodh Pratishthan of Bhopal Nobles University, Udaipur. So I'm Dr. Jayashree Singh, of course, you can see on the screen, and I'm from the English department basically. But as I had, right from my birth, I had inherited this kind of culture, or this kind of instinct, or this kind of, bilingual expertise, or you may say very much into the ecstatic, passion to involve myself into history. Because without knowing history, I cannot teach English literature. So, of course, the English literature is full of psychology. So when we talk about the narrative techniques and narratology of any literary piece, we go into the psychology, we go into the character analysis, anthropology. But we also go into the ethnocentric areas also. Ethnocentric means to which community, to which class, to which gender, this kind of things also we try to include in that kind of studies as English literature faculty. But right from my, I'll say inheritance, it was of mine, that I was fond of very much history. And so whenever I had spared time in my college or university schedule, after teaching or while teaching, I used to take up these historical archives and started reading them, and then slowly and gradually got passionate. I was invited as resource person to history departments, and then I felt that I should write a complete research paper, including these folklorist poems. Now, if we talk about our Indian literature in translation from the English department from all across India, as we have heard or we have come across as students or as faculty, so Indian literature in translation also has included, Kabir, of course, but Kabir is from Sufism, but Mirabai is very much prominently taught. Even CBSE schools, they also very much prominently have included in the curriculum Mirabai. So my research paper, at the very outset, would be discussing composition by Mirabai, because Mirabai was the first female that inspired royalty, and that royalty which was completely under, a kind of a patriotic, nationalistic outlook to protect the borders and to protect their kingdom. And she belonged to the royalty of Mewar, Indian princely state of Mewar, now known as Udaipur. And she was the bride there in Udaipur, and she was the daughter of Jodhpur royal family. So this was means, and you already know that in medieval history, most of the Brahminical culture was existing, and so only these people try to read, or they try to impart their through their lyricism, all these kind of narratives. So I'll just start. I'll share my screen also so that you may have more interest in going into the other things. And just wait. I have to take the window, I think. Sure. No. From the desktop, if we are sharing, then we have to take entire screen. No.
No, ma'am, just the document which you have opened.
Just wait. On which I have opened. Actually, on my desktop, this is open, but now what to do? So anyway, I'm starting also on by the time it this comes on the screen. These natives of south west area of Rajasthan or Rajasthan state are the intangible memory, heritage, and historical records of Indians' culture and depict their moods, emotions in mode of eternal satiety and happiness. So these compositions are full of aesthetics, ecstasy, overwhelming, passionate, serenity. Their profile is being made of, and variety of songs have been found through the memory or through the primary sources of material culture in print and in publication. What I mean to say here is that I gathered all my research material from the archival historical sources or from the libraries that has a repository of these kind of historical archives. And in publication through various agencies, institutions, I also took help of the director and the historian or the members of the royal family to help me out to find out the meanings of certain words, because very famous language used to be there. It was known as Pingle, and then it was modified or travestied into Dingle. So Pingle and Dingle were the native languages of these folklorists. So there also I had to sought the help of human libraries or resource persons. And so in this way, I got patronization, or you may say kind of supervision. In the most post-medieval times, many singers, both from royalty and indigeneity, express their personal lyricism in creative compositions of songs, poems in memory of their brave heroes, legendary figures of their states, and those compositions got popular and till date exist as memorable pieces of literary poetic art and accompanied with instrumental music. If you will visit as a tourist to Udaipur city, it's a city of 13 lakes and full of heritage and towers, forts, palaces, etc., here, and full greenery, lush green, pristine purity is there of environment. You will find that here there are two very prominent archival stores, you may say museums are there, Lok Kala Mandal and West Zone Culture Center. So there you will find all sorts of musical instruments that used to be accompanied with these compositions, and mostly their expression flow in collective bubbliness regarding their inherited heritage with pride, keeping in view the cultural location, perspective, environment, and harmony of the memory records. So in a way, these are intangible memory records. Okay. And many among the popular folklores, the significant place is given to the historically, spiritually driven famous songs of Mirabai. Means the first prominent place when India got independence, the first prominent place that we gave in our curriculum was to Mirabai. Then slowly and gradually, of course, the history department had included all sorts of, princely states history. There was a particular syllabus regarding the Rajasthan history, or Maharashtra's, you may say, Peshwa's history, and all other areas, Sindhya's history, etc. But in English literature, Mirabai was the first, privileged female who got the place to be studied, and she got placed in the Indian literature in translation. So Mirabai, for example, her song Satsang no Ras Chak means enjoy the company of true saints. In this song, she means that, so I'm directly translating you her song. If in my slide there would be Hindi or you may say Brij Bhasha. She used to write in Brij Bhasha basically her all compositions. O creature man, enjoy the taste of the association with the wise and their teachings. Enjoy the company of the true saints. So if one wants to be ecstatically happy, blissful, they need very good positive vibes, and that can be available only among the saints. In the early stage of purification, life becomes bitter and miserable, but the end of our sincere efforts to love God, life becomes as sweet as a naturally ripened mango on the mango tree. Then she says, do not be too proud of your youth, beauty, and other abilities, because ultimately the beautiful body of yours will turn to ashes, and along with it, everything that you have nurtured for its sake will also leave you. Elephants, horses, properties, wealth, none of these, including your dear ones and so-called friends, will accompany you at the end. The pure scriptures, the Upanishads, which are part of the Vedas, assert that we will be free in no time if we keep the company of the truly holy men and women. She means to say that education is the medium of our emancipation and empowerment in worldly life. But if we talk about our non-worldly life, or if we talk about our soul departs to another kind of world, what soul carries? The soul carries the knowledge gained from the world, and that knowledge, of course, needs more divine, and that could be only be possible through the scriptures or through good companies. Mirabai says in the name of her beloved husband, she got married into the Udaipur royal family during the Rana Sanga's time. Rana Sanga is very much popularly known. Why? Because the first Mughal invader, Babur, had a war or battle at Kanwa and the borders nearby, Malwa or northwest Rajasthan, and the first Indian king lost the battle against the Mughals, and he was a very powerful king in, you may say, northwest Rajasthan. So she was the daughter-in-law of that Rana Sanga, and but the point was that right from her childhood, or in her whatever even adolescent time, she used to worship her god, the Lord Krishna. So she says, Mirabai says in the name of her beloved husband, Girdhari, the Lord of the universe, Sri Krishna, to keep his mind and heart, to keep her mind and heart at the feet of her Lord. She wants to surrender her all will, or you may say her all consciousness to the Lord. So this being quoted in the book written by Swami Radhananji in 2007. Then Rajasthan's, I think my slides are open now. Hopefully I can share. Can anybody tell me how to open from the desktop? Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Am I audible?
Yeah, you are audible, but how to?
Yes.
get thing from my desktop.
Ma'am, I can see your mailbox. I think the paper which you have, you need to open that paper.
No, it's not the paper. I need to. My PowerPoint is on my desktop. It's open. Now, how to connect my desktop through your screen? There are three options: your entire screen, a window, a tab.
A
Now,
tab.
which a tab?
Yes, ma'am.
So when I take open, okay, Google Slides.
No, it's not there. Can you please try it with the window, ma'am? A window?
Window.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Because sometimes slides are important to share.
Right, ma'am, right.
Because students then focus their mind. Yeah, here it is.
Ma'am, when you click on the window, then you can see
Mhm.
all the tabs which are open on your desktop. There only you will get the option of the PPT, and then you can share it.
Yeah. Can you see now? Is it on your screen?
Yes, ma'am. It's buffering. It might take few seconds.
So meanwhile, I'll proceed further. So Rajasthan attraction on global stage till date is known for its unique aesthetic poetic sense because of their quality and forms of versification in profusion. You're well acquainted that all kinds of songs, whether belonging to rituality or to religiosity or to any kind of community celebration or festivity, all sorts of colors of Rajasthan, they are so well appreciated because of the what happened
Ma'am,
now?
I can see the screen, but it's black. I think, can you please move the slides so that we can just figure it out what's wrong at your end?
Okay, let me just check.
Yes,
Okay,
yes, it's visible now, ma'am.
it's visible?
Yes, ma'am. Can you just move it to check it? Can you just move the slides, ma'am?
Wait. Move the slides. Now, is it okay on your
No,
screen?
no, no. Now it's gone, ma'am.
It's small?
It's gone, ma'am. We can't see
It's
the
gone.
present. Yes, ma'am.
Wait. Once again. You said a window. On window, there is a this. Now, is it on screen?
Again, it's blank, ma'am. Can you just move the slide? Yes, we can see it now.
You can see?
Yeah, we can see the second slide, Indian folks, indigeneity and language. Yes, ma'am.
And first slide?
Yes, we can see the first as well.
Okay, good. So means when I'll be moving my slides, I won't be able to see you. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
But I can't see my slides.
I'm sorry intervening. I suppose you'll have to enable editing at the top, and only
Pardon?
after which the presentation enable editing. Once you enable editing at the top, then the PowerPoint presentation will become visible to all.
Okay. Can you all see now?
No, ma'am.
Sir, it's completely gone.
No, I think once you enable editing, you can go with that, ma'am. Go with screening it for all. Maybe.
It's completely gone. Oh shit. But I just don't understand why the tab is not showing PowerPoint open. It's not opening with slides. It's not opening with anything. Why?
It's blank, ma'am. You have shared
Blank?
something, but it's blank. Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, can you please close the PowerPoint presentation and then again open it so that we can share it again?
Yeah, I opened it. Means I shut down it. Now it's opening once again. In my drives, I can see my PowerPoints, but they are not opening in connections. Yes, now it is on desktop. PowerPoint is on desktop. So window.
Yes, ma'am.
Then
share
window.
it to the...
Then share. Then again it's saying enable editing. What's the problem with it? How many times will it ask for enable editing?
It is visible. It was visible.
It's visible to all of you now?
It was visible, but then when you enabled that editing, then it's gone again.
Enable content?
When you enable the editing,
He only said that you enable it, that fellow. Okay now? Is it on your screen?
Yes,
yes, ma'am.
yes, ma'am, it is.
It is on your screen.
Use this mode, ma'am.
Okay.
Just use this mode. Just go on changing the slides. That will be enough, I think.
Okay. Suppose if I minimize my slides, then how will you see?
It's blank now, ma'am.
Because the slides should be, if slides are there, then I can't see all of you. Anyway, I'll continue. I've spoken much. Okay, so let's come to the screen if you all can watch.
No, ma'am, it's gone again.
No, blank.
It's gone again.
And we could not see your PPT at all.
You cannot see the PPT?
Yes, ma'am.
Now?
It's not visible for us.
No.
No, it's dark.
Stop. First, I'll stop presenting. Now I share again. Present now. A window. Now is it there?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so let's go ahead. So my first slide talks about three big words: ethnopoetics, tradition, perspectives, and another word is folklores. So ethnopoetics means relating to community, class, or you may say relating to certain anthropological inheritance or genetics or kind of, region demographically prominent due to certain kind of situations, either of the past, present, or future. Then come to the tradition. Tradition means we are talking about the medieval Indian history, ethnopoetics, folklores. So tradition word refers to here the Indian medieval history of India from 11th century when Mahmud Ghazni attacked India, and Prithviraj Singh Chauhan, which you have recently might have watched the movie also. From that time onwards to till 16th century. 16th century means like you can say Aurangzeb's tenure is ending and Peshwas are becoming powerful. Okay, that is tradition. Then what do you mean by perspectives here? Perspectives means there are many viewpoints. For example, if I belong to the history or I have passion for history, my perspective would be very much different. But if you are simply English literature students, and even you are not well versed in any kind of historical or historicity of your region of your country, your perspective to read these folklores would be absolutely different, because you would be just finding a meaning to the word and trying to just put it in your simple structure of English language, and then you will be learning. And mostly in classes, these folklores are taught in the perspective of just learning from English language or for English language and by the English language teachers. So perspective is generally open up before the students in this way. But as this is a research and this is a research methodology workshop, so we have to find out that what can be the other perspectives, which I had already spoken in my very earlier start of the lecture. Then folklores. Folklores, you already know what do you mean by folklores. They are oral literature. Earlier in ancient times, in all across the world, even, I was just reading Midsummer Night's Dream of William Shakespeare. William Shakespeare Midsummer Night Dream is full of, folklores inside it. And it used to be taught in the Rajasthan University of Jaipur, that play, when I was a student in 1980s. So the folklores have been a very much, close to the people, and it was a community activity. It was not an individual activity. It is a community activity. The group of people dancing and singing and narrating various types of events or festivities in their songs. They could be ballads also. You might have learned a genre of ballad in literary terms. So folklores mostly were narrative stories sung in the form of poetic pattern. Then come to the next slide. Indian folks, indigeneity and language. What is Indian folk? Indian folk means the tribal dances and simple dances that are performed to express enjoy and happiness among themselves. Folk and tribal dances are performed for every possible occasion to celebrate the arrival of seasons, birth of a child, wedding, festivals, and each form of dance is a specific costume. Then you have Indian folk culture. Is prevalent among the common people of India, majority of which is to be found in the villages. Indian folk culture is characterized by its simplicity, and Indian culture basis is religious. So also the village life is primarily religious. Then come to the next slide, Indian folk literature. What is Indian folk literature? It tells us about the stories, legends, myths of folk heroes, villains, tricksters, Indian folk heroes like Ram, Krishna of ancient times that are referred in Sanskrit epics and history. And then we move forward, we will find that that folk literature transformed into variety of patterns and it was expressed in different languages spoken all across the subcontinent India. And even during the freedom movement, it was a main medium of revolutionizing the minds, because people could only understand their folk native language, and so it was a very easy way to narrate incidents that were happening somewhere and then to recite in their folk language. They have found a place in written literature. Now then, post-independent, I'll not say the post-independent, we can say like by 1920s, people had started learning, Indians had started learning, and they had in face-to-face with the British education of English language. So, and even the Britishers or the Europeans, they too were interested, because they were going to various regions of subcontinent India, and they were getting enchanted and raptured with fascinated by these folk cultures. Even you might have seen that even every Prime Minister of India is so fascinated that once they visit in these tribal areas to get such kind of ecstatic beauty of these tribals and folk culture. So all these got in written literature. In contemporary times, where will you get written literature of these folk people? You will get in the archives or in the website of Ministry of Culture, or in the there are 4 or 5 zones of culture in the aegis of Ministry of Culture across India, you will find that repository and archives there of folk literature belonging to various tribal communities. And so it's a kind of, cultural subsystem that comes to the folk heroes and very popular. What do you mean by folk heroes? Folk heroes doesn't mean that Maharana Pratap or Rana Sanga or Rana Lakha and Prithviraj Singh Chauhan. Folk heroes means that in the tribal areas or in the folk native places, there were some people who were divinely, taking courage from their inner realm, and then they were protecting their community. For example, I will illustrate to you very simply. Like, for example, Lord Krishna. When Lord Krishna was brought up by Yashoda, the foster mother Yashoda, what was that place? It was, I think, Mathura, or which place? No, not Mathura. Vrindavan, I think. So in which place he just saved all those you may say shepherds from the that stormy, thundering, rainy situation. And so there Lord Krishna was a kind of a folk hero for all those shepherds in that small area where he was looked after by Yashoda, his mother. So the folklore of India is intangible heritage manifested in performing arts. Folklore is currently understood goes beyond religious or supernatural beliefs and practices and includes the entire body of social tradition whose chief vehicle of transmission is oral or outside institutional channels. Outside institutional channels, what do you mean by institutional channels? Yeah. So folklore aesthetics derive from a precious inheritance of the past. Number one example is Kavya Shastra. Actually, your whole workshop is on research methodology and it's a pattern that how you have to work on your research paper. So first of all, you have to understand that how the aesthetic works in the folklore. So you have to collect the review of literature concerning the folklore's aesthetics, which had been very much popular in the ancient times. Number one, like Kavya Shastra, that relates to Kavya, Dhavni, and Sahadilok, as propounded in ancient times by the poet and philosopher Anand Vardhan from Kashmir region of Indian subcontinent in 7th century. Then the concepts of Alankara, external expressions of beautification, Guna, Rati, Dhavni, Vakroti, and these are, what is Guna? It is internal manifestation. You use a language as per your inspiration, as per your mood or emotion. The more calm you are from inside, the floral, or you may say your aesthetics or overwhelming desires to perceive nature or to perceive your inside own mind will more be in a wider scape. Then Rati means the language. First we have the semantics, like logic, how you use the words. Lexically you have to understand. Then you have to understand how you structure those words in your composition. Then what kind of articulation you want to give to each and every word that you're using. That's why you have seen that whenever we read poetry, there are some alliteration, consonants, assonance. So those consonants, assonance, alliteration, onomatopoeia, all these are the part of versification, which is in ancient times termed as Dhavni. And it is the tone in the soul of poetry. It's an internal vision of the composer. Then next element is Ras. Unless you are able to structure your words, your language in a form of, kind of lyrical pattern, and that lyrical pattern should enact a kind of sentiment. So enactment of sentiment is very much important while manifesting your all whatever you want to narrate. So there the ras element works. Then you have vakroti, that is the essence, the form of poetry. Because overall there might be 14 lines, 16 lines, or might be the full 1000 lines. So what is the full essence of the poetry? That is also very important. Then auchitya, observance of propriety, that how you actually get the poetic pleasure, how you get the poetic justice out of it. Is the composer able to do justice with whatever situation he wants to convey and wants his hero to enact? So these are the folklore aesthetic elements. Then you have Dhavni. It relates to three, again, as we had read William Wordsworth, he used to say that meter is very important, but not that very important. And Coleridge used to say, yes, without meter, you cannot have that kind of sublimity or ecstasy in the poetry. So Dhavni is basically the metrical pattern, and how you rhyme your ending lines, or in between the words, how you create rhyme or rhythm. And that also influences the mental state of the listener and mental state of the performer who enacts to create the beauty of folklore aesthetics. Now come to the Rajasthan's, how they had used all these folkloric aesthetic elements in their compositions, and what is the source of all this resource that we have taken up in this slide. There is in the end, you can see at the end of the, you can't see the slides. Yashpal, a critical analysis of Kalidas' poetic style, writing from his poetical works, International Journal of Applied Research. Then next slide, I'm moving. I think Kanupriya has left, otherwise she would have taken my slides and moved those slides for her listeners.
No, ma'am, I'm there only. I'm listening to your lecture. I'm there.
So now, Veer Ras. So our basic focus in this area of study is Veer Ras, how in different regions of India, especially Maharashtra, Madhya Pradesh, Uttar Pradesh, and then you have Rajasthan, and even Punjab. And if we go to the more into south, then you might find Karnataka. That here heroism had been a very important feature of their lifestyle, of their grooming, of their history, of their culture. So heroism was very important element, and with regard to this kind of instinctual heritage of these regions, the Veer Ras, which in Natya Shastra is known as Veer Ras, was used to be an important kind of, you may say, emotion. Then you will come to the social integration and social registration of the social capital. Now, what is social capital? Social capital means the common mass. How common mass, not as a participant in the wars, perceives these folklores when the performer is performing before them. There were two types of performers. One that used to accompany the kings and motivate them, stimulate them. If they are beheaded, then they have to motivate the remaining survivors in the battlefield. And if the king has lost the battle, then also to help him out to escape the battlefield and to motivate other warriors to continue the battle. Again, the bards had a great role to play. And then again, there are other kinds of bards who used to motivate the common masses. And those common masses were actually the social capital. If they would not be motivated, if their, spirit is lost, then subjugation would be definite. So in order to keep up their spirit, their morale high, they used to be considered as social capital by these folklorists, and through the dances and especially in the festivals and in other kind of performances, these kind of things were performed and narrated so that they can continue with that kind of spirit, which can disseminate that what could be the problems and what could be the future of these citizens. So in this way, they used to integrate the people, they integrate the social capital, and then they used to register in their mind the effect, the influence of these folklores that were written in context of the chivalry or gallantry of warriors and martyrs. I'll give you one example. I think you might have watched in movies also, or in some, or you might when you were young in your school days, or even in you may say historical comics. There was a very famous story that there was one Hadi Rani of Marwar, belonging to Jodhpur, wife of Maharaja Jaswant Singh. She died of plague in Bijapur in 1688, and his wife fought the forces of Emperor Aurangzeb in Delhi, while got cheated for not being given entitlement to run her kingdom as the guardian of her son Rajkumar Ajit Singh. So these lines we can, I can read before you those lines. Ichhari guman bhari chandi abhiman bhari देखन विमान भरी सखी देवरानी की डमरू बजाए है प्रबल घोष भूतनी लगाई किलकारी उग्रवाणी की अतुर की बोली उठी संकनीक सब जाति प्रेम जग हो हमारी चीरा हाड़ी रानी की. So you can see that ni e sound sound is very much into these lines. Bhari chandi abhiman bhari. So bhari, chandi, abhiman, bhari. So you can see the consonants and the assonance. They are so rhythmically combined, and there is, a beautiful pattern of feet, stress, unstress, stress, unstress, to give a beautiful rhyme at the end of the lines and even in the midst of the lines. So next, I'll take to another now to you. If there have been. So I'll come to the next excerpts from the folk literature of Durga Das Charitra. Who was Durga Das? Anybody can remember? If you are all from Rajasthan, Durga Das was a famous warrior from Jodhpur in the times of Aurangzeb. He was the uncle and was, a kind of a guardian of a young soul, a young kid, and he had to protect Jodhpur for Aurangzeb. And in the battle of 9th June 1679, he got martyred. But there's full book on his warriorship, or you may say on his chivalry or on his sacrifice, how he never thought of staking any of his things for the safety as well as the protection of the region. It was 1679. So Aurangzeb reacted to these events by deposing the incompetent puppet ruler of Marwar in Indra Singh and placing it under direct Mughal rule. His forces moved in to occupy the region, and anarchy and slaughter was let loose on the doomed state all the great towns in the plain were pillaged, the temples were thrown down. He also substituted the son of a milkman for Ajit Singh, uh, uh, raised the child as if he was the rightful heir to Jaswant Singh, and denounced the real heir as an impostor. So there was actually the fight for the survivor of the king of Mewar and the fake survivor, which Aurangzeb had made him ascended the throne, or he made him king by killing the real king of that place. So in 1679, Raja Shri Indra Singh Ji Sahib Bahadur, Raja of Jodhpur and Nagaur, only surviving son, Shri Raj Singh Ji privately succeeded on the death of his father as Rao of Nagaur in 1676. So if we read the composition from that book, we will find that how till date the continuity of that momentum of bravery is being maintained in that region. Whenever there are some kind of forums or festivities organized to relive the past, to restructure, to recreate the past among the young natives of Marwar region or Jodhpur. Then we have another excerpt from Jaimal Prakash glorifying Indian princely states, Charan's composition. Jaimal Prakash is a writer. He's a bard. He's also, glorifying the position of that king while fighting. And so I think these, the Durgadas Charitra, and being composed by one of the Charan Bhat, and then Jaimal Prakash is also Charan Bhat. He has also given a beautiful composition in favor of that beheaded king by Aurangzeb. Then folklore in the context of now women of ruling families. So if I was able to convey my things through that slides, I would have made you to listen one of the songs, that how the royalty or how the common women, they both integrate their emotions through certain kind of platform in which the common women singing the glory of like Maharani Tarabai. Now, who was Tarabai? She was the mother of Shivaji. Am I right? Then we have another like folk tales in commemoration of the martyrs, also like Baba Ramdev, or you may say there are many folk deities. Folk deities means they were the common heroes, and those common heroes not in the battlefield risked their life, but on certain kind of day-to-day, revolutionizing the mind and taking triviality against the stakeholders of those contemporary times. So these figures also being very much popularly sung in the folk or narrated in the folk tales, and they were known as legendary figures. And till date, they are commemorated, and cultural fairs are organized and at a large scale, and all they are citizens or natives of those particular regions so enthusiastic that the whole village goes into that celebration. I would make you recall, or I would give you a parallel context. If you remember John Keats' poetry Ode on a Grecian Urn, there is one stanza that John Keats writes. He sees Grecian means a kind of a vessel that keeps the ashes of the dead people. That vessel was known as Grecian urn. Grecian means the Greeks. Greeks used to collect the ash of the dead in the vessel, which we call in Indian terms the lota, the copper vessel. But in those Greeks times, the civilization, they had the vessel of made of marble. On those marble vessels, there were engravings, and those engravings used to tell the story of particular event. So in one of the engravings, there was a story being narrated by sculptor on that Grecian urn that the whole village is vacated. But there's no reason. What's the reason that why it is vacated? And then it was found that some festivity or some ritual going on at certain some kind of shrine, and on the scaffold there is one kind of animal tied, and that to be to sacrifice so that some good fortune may come to the prosperity of the village. So see, this kind of narrative pattern Greek civilization used to take up through even through the engravings, and the whole village used to jump into that celebration. Similarly, in India, or even in you may say not in India, even in any, if you go to the indigenous places, far remote places, you will find that the whole village will get vacated and will be cornered. You will find them celebrating something with all that enthusiasm and festivity. So this kind of spirit these folk people have to and togetherness they have. Point is that togetherness that they have, and these things that have been depicted by folklorists in the folk tales or in the folk compositions. Then a very famous movie you might have known about, Rani Padmavati. Everybody had watched it, and it was a very controversial movie. Performed in the lead role, there was Deepika Padukone and Ranveer Singh, and so and so. I think all of you remember that movie. Now, from where that research done and how that thing came up into the form of cinematic mode, they were already available literature, and that available literature was in the form of folklores, and those folklores telling the myths. Now, I used in my earlier, just 5 minutes back, the word figure, the legendary figures, and now I'm using the word myths. Now, these myths means these are some known stories that she went to the camp of opposite, or she went into the opposite camp to talk to that whatever invader, and then how she tried to get some some kind of you may say concession that that invader may not be so ruthless or merciless, but nothing had happened. So these kind of some interpolations that we get into these folk stories or in folk tales or in the historical archives, these kind of interpolations are also referred as some kind of myths. Their truth is not well verified, but yet they are very much into that she was very popular and very famous, very brave, and she belonged to Sri Lanka. These kind of references that we get, these are all from folklorist compositions. I'll read in Hindi that it's a page 51 from the book written by Udaylal Dabhai, and he writes, Rani Padmini ki ऐतिहासिकता और ख्याति प्राप्त जौहर कहाँ से आ गई? हाँ, बहादुर खानदान की लड़की होने से उसे सिंह प्रदेश मीन्स श्रीलंका अथवा देश की मान सकते हैं, जिसे कालांतर में सिंघल देश कहा गया हो। इससे भी यह स्पष्ट होता है कि ये राजकुमारी राजपुताने के किसी क्षेत्र की रहने वाली रही, क्योंकि उस काल में राजपुताना ही सिंहों की एक मातृभूमि रही थी। Means Sri Lanka had some kind of or some kind of influence over Rajasthan in those times during Alauddin Khilji's time, and around Alauddin Khilji's time was 13th century. Okay, 13th century. तो कई विद्वानों ने इसे सिंघलवाड़ा सिंगल देश की होना बताया, जबकि वस्तुतः रानी पद्मिनी पंगल पिंगल अथवा पंगलगढ़ की रहने वाली थी, जो वर्तमान में बीकानेर के अंतर्गत आता है। ढोला मारू लोक गाथा की नायिका भी इसी गढ़ की रहने वाली थी। राजस्थानी लोक गीतों से भी प्रमाणित होता है कि रानी पद्मिनी पंगल या पुंगलगढ़ इन बीकानेर की रहने वाली थी। अब ये तो हो गया प्रोज, the interpretation or the paraphrase of that poetic composition or lyric that is there. Now I'll read the lyric and see the rhythm of that lyric. Pagi pagi pangi pat sir upri amar chha, pavas pragatu padmini keh utpangal ja. So here again you will see that the original language was Pingal, in which this composition had been done by that writer, and how he has to, he had to confirm his mind while writing that composition that from which place was Rani Padmini. So that fellow did not face any controversy. Rather, that person or the director, the filmmaker of Rani Padmini faced a lot of controversy. He was Sanjay Leela Bhansali, most probably. Why he faced so much of controversy? Because he did not belong to this region, number one. Number two, he might have not got that kind of resources from which he could confirm it. Number three, he want to fictionalize the things for the sake of larger audience. So there could be many reasons with regard to that cinema making. But when we write these things or when we circulate on the virtual platform these things, we have to be very meticulous that what we are going to convey to our audience and listeners. Then there are also very famous folklores. Now I will be coming to your cybernetics. How in cyberplace these folklorists have made their position, have made their economy, and from social capital they have become the economic capital, and they have generated workforce who is working digitally to synchronize, to sync, all whatever technology and all whatever sound system, all the camera, photography, and even human library they need. And the singer, basically the most important is singer you need. Like for example, if we talk about Rana Sanga, the father-in-law of Mirabai, who fought in the Battle of Kanwa against the first Mughal emperor Babur. If we go into his, the songs that were sung for him in praise of him, like basically, in English literature, if we say, when we sing praises for certain great luminary or the martyr or for some warrior, if we sing praises, what that poetic genre called as, it's known as odes, O-D-E-S, odes. Okay, so when we sing praises and we are, elaborating or elevating the position of the warrior in the battlefield, among the masses, in the opposite camp, when we are elevating with full-blown elated voice as a singer, then it's actually depicting Veer Ras, Veer Ras, or the victorious emotion. But that same thing when narrated in a story form, or when the same thing when being performed publicly among the masses, with the masses and for the masses, then it is like a narrative story sung in a ballad form. So we have to understand that how, that's why when we had a colonial power, colonizers in our country, why were they so much influenced by these tribal cultures? Because they found the same thing. Because India is a subcontinent and Europe is a continent, and there's so many nation states, and so many nation states used to, jump into this country for their own sake, for whatever purpose. But when they came across these natives, indigenous people, with their indigeneity and with their culture, aesthetics, etc., they found that there's so much of similarity. That's why when I wrote my research paper of around 81 pages,
I indeed collected all these sources from Pratap Shodh Sansthan, from other archival libraries, like there is one university, Rajasthan Vidyapeeth. That Rajasthan Vidyapeeth has a good collection of these archival sources of these bards, Rajasthan bards, Gujarat bards, and Maharashtra. So I collected all these pictures, and then even I went to West Zone cultural centers or Lok Kala Mandal to get the recordings, musical recordings. All these are in my slides. So all these, when I collected, I started interpreting them. But when you write research paper, what is most important when you write research paper? When you write research paper, you need to have a primary data. So my primary data, you are well have understood, it's relating to some emotions, victorious emotions, and those victorious emotions related by either bards in the battlefield or by the group of people in the form of ballads to the community of their own regions. So this kind of primary data then again divided into two sections. And then we are also focusing on the language, on the structure, on the technique, on the pattern, narratology. So these are again the structural parts. Then we are also then finding in this primary data, what else? We are thinking that why don't we internationalize it? Why don't you go from local to global? So that whenever I would be presenting, because when I got these recordings from these centers, I found that these recordings are already virtually available. They are already in the digital world. They are already into the market, and a lot of multidisciplinary strands are integrated to market the thing. Then why I am so behind? So taking the thing from local to global, I felt that I should also explore now review of literature, and then I found that all review of literature, if we take it from the pre-independent India, we will find that many of the literature also talks about these folklores or of these folk natives culture and aesthetics, and these are very much similar in the European countries and the African countries, and they have also been analyzed, and that became the source of my existing literature, available literature, to do citations, in-text citations as background study or as my part of my research methodology. So when we write research paper or a thesis, we have to understand what is the difference between primary data and how primary data, through what resources you have collected, if you have collected from digital world, from virtual world, from the archival repositories, from museums, from libraries, from other digital print resources. Digital print resources means like from Ministry of Culture, you're visiting that website, or from these Zone Culture Centers website if you're visiting. And from there you will get the prints, hard prints of these resources. And they would be discussing all about these. So in this way, I completed this work. I think I just now want to wind up, because there are two events subsequently to happen right after this webinar, one in my family and one in my building. So I have to attend those. I would like to now excuse myself here. Next time, if you allow me, I'll continue with my section. Is Dr. Kanu, are you here?
Yes,
Listen
ma'am.
me?
Yes, ma'am. Yes. Thank you so very much. Due to weather condition, I have a power cut at my place. I'm so sorry about it. Yeah, we just got the light. Yeah, it was really very informative, ma'am. We can understand the intensity with which you have researched in your research paper. Obviously, being a student of literature, I can very much relate to it. How, the studies or doing the research on folklore is very difficult, and basically collecting the primary data, as you have already suggested. So I'm sure the audience also have some questions, doubts, or observations which they would like to interact with you. I would also like to inform the audience that due to unfortunately, the second speaker for the day will not be able to join us because sir is not well. So he has already informed us. So we'll be winding up the session after the queries, questions, which whatever you have in Ma'am. And I also request all the participants to please turn on their cameras so that we can capture some moments.
One thing I would like to inform you,
Yes.
there is a book available on this work. Whatever presentation I have done, there is a book available on the website, Lambert, Lambert, Lambert Publishing Agency, Germany. The neighboring area is now Estonia. And it's a Lambert, Lambert, Lambert Publishing House. There, that book on this work is available. And the book you can also see in my LinkedIn account. If you all access me in my LinkedIn account, you will find that in my featured area, this book detail, the picture is there. You can collect the picture and then detail how to order it. It's available. It's recently published, and you can go into it to purchase for your libraries, so that students can understand. Because if I pass on my this PowerPoint or if my research paper, it would not suffice. But if you go with that book, it is around of 90 pages, and it consists of all details how I might have gone into that step by step in 5 years to complete that book.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you very much. Any questions from the
None.
participants?
In any language you can ask me the question. Hindi, English. Anybody from Rajasthan? Anybody? Okay. I think आप लोग कोई folklore में काम कर रहे हैं, ट्राइबल लिटरेचर में काम कर रहे हैं. अब तो आपके प्रेसिडेंट भी ट्राइबल कम्युनिटी को रिप्रेजेंट कर रहे हैं. One of the wonderful achievement that India has got now. So don't you think कि हमारे सिलेबस में हम लोग कितना पीछे चल रहे हैं, और जबकि हमारे कंट्री के ट्राइबल्स कितना आगे हैं?
Excuse me, ma'am.
Yes.
I would like to ask, ma'am. मैं basically fine art से हूँ. I'm from sculptures. And we were thinking of integrating tribal sculpting practices in our course. How do you think we should go about it? If you could.
Yes, actually, our university is quite new, and it's only 6 years. Otherwise, we were affiliated to Mohanlal Sukhadia University, and so 6 years only this Bhopal Nobles University has come into a great prime existence. Although its establishment goes back long to 1923, the oldest institution, academic institution in Udaipur. Okay, patronized oldest institution in Udaipur was Bhopal Nobles. But now but 6 years only it has come into existence as a university. So what I would like to suggest you here is, through this historical reference, that first you have to see that in your city, to whichever you belong, whether you belong to Union Territory or city or to any district or whatever, first you locate, are there any such kind of archival institutions or repositories are there or not? If they are there, then you just go with them and ask that which are most popularly read by the common mass of that area. Suppose if they say that we read mostly these books of folk or tribal are mostly read by, and this our library data shows library, because their visitors come and they sign and they get their books issued. So first of all, before going into certain kind of project or syllabi or preparing a curriculum, you have to understand that to which region you belong. Suppose if you keep like Baba Ramdev's compositions done by some bard, or if you keep Prithviraj Chauhan's Chand Bardai's compositions, if you keep some sections or cantos of Chand Bardai's Prithviraj Raso. So it's very interesting because everybody is very much enchanted, because you have an additional tool with you, that there is a cinema, very popular cinema in modern times, and there might be earlier pictures also on Prithviraj Chauhan. So you have got cinematic media that is available. And if you also keep Chand Bardai's Prithviraj Raso also in one of the sections as a one unit, it will really get create a lot of enchantment, attraction towards these things. But you should understand that is other secondary sources. How many secondary sources are also there? Because you have to write below your syllabus that what are the reading resources or suggested reading resources. So you have to mention the suggested reading resources there. And if you have not visited your local area, then how will you convince your new entrants in that course that certain thing is available in that library? You can access that library because your teacher, your faculty, whosoever teaching Chand Bardai in English language or maybe in bilingual manner, she might not have prepared her notes. But at least if in your syllabi or in your curriculum, you have mentioned suggested readings and those suggested readings are available in somewhere in your region or somewhere in your area, it would, really a great motivation for everybody. And it will be easy to get your, that course sanctioned also in the academic council. So these factors, these are the external factors. Internal factors are like notes to be prepared by the teachers. Sometimes why India could not bring these things so quickly by 1975 or 1980s. There was a reason, because I studied all Greek literature. I never studied Indian literature. To be very frank, most of my researches are Indian literature because I was a very good student of history. Very good student of history means without reading books of history, I could attend my exam in graduation. That was my passion for history. So that's why my literature is so good. But what I want to say here is why Indian universities prepared curriculum in Indian literature and translation and Indian writings in English after 1990s. Why we got so late? The reason was the availability of notes, availability of faculty, availability of this or that, getting the new course sanction, clarity. These were not the things so easy. But now government is so much cooperative, and even Indian institutions are currently extending maximum cooperation. So what you have to do is first go take a tour to your whatever region you are living in, how many institutions, how many libraries, how many museums they are keeping those repositories regarding that particular folk or tribal work in sculpture form. Suppose if you are from visual arts, your field is visual arts. So you have to find out how many museums are there or how many sculpture artists are also there. You have to also understand the human library. I use the word human library. Why I use that word? Because I'm a human library for you at present. I'm telling you, I'm briefing you with all kind of, stimulating you that, so I'm a human library basically for you instead of a resource person. So because resource person is more closer, it's very face to face. Human library means you're randomly getting a lot of ideas and you're just jotting down, okay, I have to visit this place, I have to catch up with the human sources, then I have to catch up with the tangible. Tangible means museum, centers, institutions, these are tangible sources. Then intangible. Now intangible means, for example, if you are keeping Chand Bardai's Prithviraj Raso as one of the unit, and not all cantos of Raso, only one Raso from one canto you can keep. Like you remember, we were taught Alfred Tennyson, In Memoriam. In Memoriam is a long elegy with so many cantos, but I remembered we were only taught 2 cantos. So similarly, we can keep from Chand Bardai's Prithviraj Raso some cantos. And we have got films to attract the new entrants to have a good study out of the history. Because as a teacher, if we are not from history department, at least we can investigate these movies and get into the crux of the history quickly. It's a shortcut method to get into the history. Okay, so these are the things. Then you have to also understand that how many resources are there with regard to like how many recordings are there with particular Chand Bardai's cantos. So by chance, if you want to arrange a tutorial class, what will you do? You need some kind of audio ready, so that they can hear that, rhythm, how the Pingal language is so methodologically and rhythmically used. So through audio, you can make them, captured into that kind of ecstasy. So you have to mention, and even in thesis we write that how many interviews we take, how many blogs we checked up, or how many this or how many that. Same pattern you have to follow with the preparation of your some particular course that you want to start with in your PG or UG. Or you can do one thing like the UGC has kept, University Grants Commission has kept that 60% course you have to borrow from the very popular prevalent university, existing university, and 40% course you can keep your new one. So in our university, in Bhopal University, when it came into existence before 6 years, what we did, we kept tribal literature paper, we kept Dalit literature paper. Indeed, they ignored folklore paper because folklore paper was quite difficult because it's more into Rajasthani. But coincidentally, when there was a CBC system, in CBC system, University Grants Commission had kept one paper which was known as Modern Indian Languages. In those modern Indian languages, there was one unit, small unit, containing of some folklore section. Maybe of Mirabai or of Kabir or of anybody, Vijayadan Deta stories and all. We had a Paheli movie was there from Vijayadan Deta. So these things we have, this is a way we can prepare our course pattern. And so first of all, collect the secondary sources from your own region. How much you can support new entrants with the external reading material so that you can satisfy University Grants Commission or NAC inspection also, your academic council, your whatever the president or vice chancellor or your dean. You have to take them into confidence. All right. Anything else?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Okay.
Just love the energy and passion which you have, ma'am. Seriously loved it. Any other question from the participants?
You know, we have such a big Pratap Shod Pratishthan, and it has got, I think, how many 10 decades history at least available. 10 decades history, but nobody is there to read. Means commonly the new entrants or the common faculty, they hardly go into that place and to read. It's so tough. You need to have that kind of instinctual urge, creative urge to get back to your heritage, to your history. And if you don't have that instinct or inherent passion, you can't work on these things. But currently all across the world, everybody either going into some kind of spiritual studies or into kind of historical studies. They want to relive because they are new subjects. They are giving you new perspective. So that's why I use the word perspective there. And digitally, how you can avail the resources as secondary or as primary data. Okay.
Very true, ma'am.
So I'm so thankful.
So I thank you once again very much, ma'am. It was really very enlightening and engaging session also, and I personally learned a lot because I've also read Mirabai, which was written by Gurucharan Das, and I have a research paper also over Mirabai, so I could very much relate to it, and I can understand like what all things you must have undergone before writing the research paper. So it was really very informative. I thank you on behalf of Manav Rachna International Institute of Research and Studies and Cape Comorin Trust. Yes, ma'am.
Kanu, I'm going to bring out one book on women of regalia because it was my project long back in Harvard University. I had gone and organized their seminar on women of regalia, and it's incomplete project. Many research papers are handwritten, but they are not yet typed. And that time we had collected a lot of papers from other speakers also. So you send me your email ID, be in touch, so that I can have your paper again with the new edited form, with new edited things
Sure.
on Mirabai itself, or if on somebody else, if you want to add into it as another, you may say, paper, I'll be in touch so that we can have it.
Definitely, ma'am. Definitely. Sure. I'll just contact you. Thank you so very much. I thank you once again for enlightening us again, and we'll meet all tomorrow for the last day of the faculty development program. Till then, good night, good day. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, dear participants. You're wonderful in very huge number. It's really a great gathering. And I'm so happy that one person can influence so many people. And so now 85 people will influence how many people? It's a wonder. Great achievement on behalf of Manav Rachna International University. Congratulations to